Welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. We got a great show today. Maureen Shea, female professional boxer, the real $1 million baby.
Yeah.
Happy to have you all the way from Florida here, back up on the East Coast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Good to see you again.
You too. It's been a while.
Yes, it is.
It's been a while.
We chat here and there,
Yep.
and I know you're busy, and I'm watching you on your social media and seeing.
Well, you've always
really
been
good.
supportive. You've always and every time you had the girls in, like it was Sarah, right? Was that Sarah?
Did you see that come up?
Yeah.
I sent that to you
On Facebook.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was awesome.
And you have also, because for any of our female fighters out there, you've always been there to talk to them, and talk them off the ledge, and kind of give them a little,
Literally,
little bit of your experience. And it's great to have you back up here.
Thank you. I got to make more often, more consistent trips.
Now you're an original Bronx girl.
I am born and raised. Yep.
Born and raised, and now you're in Florida.
Yep. I had a couple different trips. I mean, I went from the Bronx, literally the Bronx to Brooklyn, Brooklyn to Jersey to, I was in Mexico for a little while, and then I went from Mexico to California, and California for 8 years, and then I moved to Florida to be closer to my family. I was away from my family for 10 years.
It's got to be great for your training, though, now, too.
Yeah, it's been like an evolution of myself. So I've evolved as a woman and as a fighter, and I'm so glad that I was able to go to these different areas and kind of adapt and learn and grow, not just as a fighter, but as a woman. And I think going out to California, where in Oxnard, I didn't know anybody. In Ventura, I didn't know anybody. I knew Haas, Joseph Janik, who I trained with out there, but and Robert Ferguson, who at the time was my nutritionist. I only knew 2 people, but I created a life and such a community out there, and I found a lot of healing there, a lot of healing for some stuff that I was struggling with.
Right. So we'll get to Oxnard, because I want to ask you a couple of questions about that. Tell us about what brought you to the sport of boxing.
So, even being here, coming back, it always comes like rushing back to me. So I was born and raised in the Bronx, and my mom's Mexican, my dad's Irish. My brother's 10 years older than me. So I always felt like I kind of didn't belong. My parents were older, so my father was like no cable in the house, no video games, none of that. So it was hard for me to have like connection because all my friends' parents were younger. And then I would spend a lot of time in Mexico. My mom's Mexican, and they wanted me to speak fluent Spanish. So since I was 9 months, I'd go out to Mexico. And that's how I learned Spanish, just being in a room full of Mexicans. And I never really felt connected with anybody out there. And then I came back to New York, and I still felt like very, very lonely. And I struggled a lot emotionally. I struggled with, I'm a good communicator now, but I struggled communicating my emotions, and I was very reactive. So I had some violent tendencies where if I couldn't explain myself, I'd get so frustrated, I just break things. And so I struggled a lot with that. And then going on, 17 years old, I ended up in an abusive relationship. So that was very difficult for me because he was my best friend. And he ended up doing drugs, like doing steroids and stuff, and having roid rages. And he had some violent, episodes with me. And then here I am fighting back, trying to fight back. But he's obviously winning. I mean, he punched me in my face, had 8 stitches above my eyebrow. He almost strangled me to death because this is a 50-pound man or 40-pound man, and he was my best friend. So when that happened, I started going to the gym thinking I'd better myself for him. And I went to Omni Health and Fitness it's in Mount Vernon or Pelham. Pelham, yeah. And I walked in there, and I remember going to the back, and there was a boxing ring in the back. And
2.
Oh, now there's 2 out there?
No,
oh, there was 2. That's right.
the
There was 2.
original
That's right.
was
There was
2.
1. That's right. You're right. I remember that. That's right. So when I went back, Willie Soto came up to me, who I spoke to 2 weeks ago, who's now living in Florida.
I know he's living in Florida.
I talk to him all the time. I got to go visit him. So he comes up to me and he says, "Do you want to try?" That's all he said to me. And I looked at him and I was like, okay. And I'm like, well, how am I going to connect with these men? So I speak Spanish. So I knew he spoke Spanish. He had an accent. So I started speaking to him in Spanish. And he's like, how do you know Spanish? I said, oh, I'm Mexican and Irish. Not knowing that that's like a boxing, combination unheard of. And he's like, oh, you're going to be a world champion. And the rest is pretty much history. And that was it. But
you got a good guy on your first meeting.
Oh, man. Let me tell you, he would get in the ring with me and spar with me. And he respected me. He made sure everybody there respected me. He was just so wanting to teach. He was such a loving coach.
Yeah.
And he just really wanted to teach, and we had a great time.
Original New York legend.
Yeah.
Original.
Yep. He was like, he's family. He called me Guerra. on my headgear. I had Guerra. He gave everybody names. So Jalapeno,
Good
Antonio
man.
Oliveros was Jalapeno. I was Guerra. Yeah.
Yeah, great guy. Great guy. So now you're in Omni, you're working now, and now you got the bug.
So now, I guess, you know what, it wasn't even like, I never dreamt of being a world champion. I never thought about I just said, okay, what's next? What do I do with this now?
Did you think about this in the beginning as, I'm here to just train, or I can do something with this?
No, never thought I could do something with this. Because in my house, it wasn't, I didn't tell my parents.
Yeah,
my father was a cop. He wanted me to go to school and be a lawyer. You know?
And look, at that time, and no disrespect to women in sports
it was so different.
Today,
No.
you walking into a boxing gym is not like where there are a lot of women out there today. Of course. There are a lot of talented women fighters out there and a lot of talented women athletes. So you're walking into an area breaking stereotypes.
And and I think a lot of that
Especially
I credit.
at Omni.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because that was like the bodybuilder gym too. Yeah. But and it was Anthony and his brother, right?
Brother,
yeah. But I personally, like, my father raised me, and this is a lot of credit to my dad. He raised me to be a good human, just to be a human. So like if I didn't come home on curfew, he locked me out of the house. So it was like, figure it out. My dad was tough love all the way around. So to me, I didn't know like, oh, I can do anything. Like I felt like if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. Plus I'm stubborn. Plus when I put my mind to something, and if you tell me no.
Well, you got a good mix there. You got
that's
the Mexican
the
and the
spicy
Irish,
stubborn.
going right like this head to head. So.
Yeah. So that was it. So I guess I just, I was in Omni and everybody was great, but I had to, eventually I left Willie because he was very busy. He was training a lot of the guys there, and I realized that there wasn't really a place for me. But I befriended Luis Rosado, and was a welterweight.
Right.
So Luis was trying to help me find another gym. And and then I had met Luigi actually in Omni. He was training two girls while his gym was I guess they were doing some renovations or something. So Luigi was there, and then he left. And I was like, oh, they were two heavyweight girls. But I was like, oh, there was girls here. Then he left, and I talked to him like once or twice. But we went to a couple of different gyms. And it was actually the first gym that closed their door on me was Morris Park Boxing Gym. And it was Jim Borzell who was in there. And I'll never forget, and Jim remembers it. I mean, back then, he literally told me, like, you don't look like a fighter. I was dressed like this. And he's like, you don't look like a fighter. We don't have anything for you. And I was like, okay.
Did he ever match you down the road?
Yes, he
after
did.
That?
Yes, he did. And again, I love Jim. We had a great relationship afterwards. But I said, Jim, do you remember?
Past this little.
Oh yeah. But you know what? Like, I didn't know. I was like, okay, well, he's a jerk. That was my mindset. I was like, okay, well, I'm screw. But you know what? It was like by the third gym that did that to me, we were going on to the fourth. I was like, I looked at Lewis and I was like, you know what? I was like, I don't really care. I don't want to go in. I'm like, if somebody else tells me no, I'm going to punch them. So he went in. And he comes out with a business card, and he's like, so the guy in there says he knows you, and he said to call this guy, and I'm like, he knows me. And I was like, okay. So I go home, and it was AOL at the time. So I logged in, and the guy's email was AOL address, so I looked it up, see if he's online. It was Luigi. He was online. Mm-hmm. So I sent him a message, and I was like, hey, I'm Maureen. He's like, oh, I know who you are. And I'm like, how do you know who I am? He's like, well, we met at Omni. And so then he's like, when do you want to start? I said, tomorrow. He said, okay. So he had New York Boxing Gym on Nepperhan in Yonkers.
Yep, I remember those.
And, the best part of it was I remember to this day, I can see it in my head. When I walked into New York Boxing Gym, Luigi, I remember what he was wearing. I remember he was standing by the window holding a cup of coffee. And I felt like I was home. I knew. And now we're, 26 years later, he's now my manager. Yeah. And he's been my manager.
Well, you know something, as trainers and fighters and people in the sport, what I tell people is, look, you got to connect with me. Mm-hmm. You got to have some sort of connection, because I'm not that person as a trainer that I can work with somebody without having some sort of connection. Of course.
It's so important. And the fighter should want to have that too.
Yeah, they should. And there's got to be a mutual trust both ways.
But I feel like it's a lot of like the work ethic. Like for me, it was my low self-esteem that I walked into that gym with that created my work ethic, because I didn't think that I was good enough. And I felt like I always had to prove myself. So that fight of proving myself all the time was what pushed me to excel. It was, I'm not good enough. I can't cut corners. I got to do better than everybody else because I'm not supposed to be doing this. Nothing good is going to happen to me.
Is that just with boxing, or if you say you played basketball, you have that drive in you? That drive is in you no matter what. Whether you think so, it came out in boxing.
Yes. Boxing was what was the driving force that made, because it was everything else. I didn't give a shit. I got kicked out of high school. I ended up graduating from Lehman. I got kicked out of Preston, but even academics, I was like, ugh. But when it came to but it was a way for me to take my emotions and get it out physically. You know what I mean? And all the
Right.
battles that I was dealing with from my own personal struggles, from the abusive relationship, from my self-esteem, my depression, my eating disorders, like all of that kind of just boxing just I said this before, it became the architect that rebuilt me, literally. And it taught me things my parents couldn't, because it was tough love, because it's unforgiving and it's brutal. And being a female during that time.
Steven, you had it double. Mm-hmm. You're right. It is unforgiving. People don't realize what fighters go through, male or female. Okay, you check yourself every day. There are days you don't want to get out of bed. You got to go train.
This happened the other day, and I said it to my coach. I said, you know what? I just don't want to be here today. I sparred 4 rounds. I'm like, I just don't want to be here. I just said it, and then he looks at me. I didn't expect anything. I just needed to say it, and then I went on the bag, and I'm like, okay, well, you're here, and I know me. I'm going to do what I got to do. But I got pissed because we were training on 2-minute rounds, and here I am in my head. And then they changed the bell to 3 minutes, and here I am in my head, and it's an extra minute. And I'm like, who changed the bell? And I start yelling at everybody because I'm like, I'm over the whole, I don't got to prove myself no more. I don't got to prove, you can do 3-minute rounds, you can do that. I can do I'll do whatever I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to walk into a gym. Like, my respect is there. I've earned it. So and my work ethic and just who I am will speak for itself. But, there's certain things I'm a little particular when it comes to my training.
Listen, like every fighter, they all have their little idiosyncrasies. As coaches, we need to pick them up. We need to know when to hug them or kick them in the ass.
Yeah.
Pretty much like that. So now you're with Luigi, training, starting to like the sport, pick it up.
Well, no, I wanted to fight. I was like, let's fight.
Yeah, that's.
We
talked about this earlier. Yeah. Everybody wants to come into the gym. They want to fight.
Well, at this point, I didn't know until I had a sparring session when I was with Willie with this girl who had won the Golden Gloves, I think at 118 or 119. And I didn't know anything. All I knew was 1, 2, slip, slip. That's all I knew. Right. And he's like, oh, you're going to spar another girl today. And she came in and she was small. And I was like, pfft. I mean, I'm from the Bronx. I was tough. I fought.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Man, this girl hit me with a left hook. I thought I broke my jaw. I stopped the sparring. Everybody was watching me. I just looked around and I was like, no. And then they stopped the sparring. I remember that day I went home, and I cried because I was so disappointed in myself. And I was like, no, I want this. So I went back the next day. It was a Saturday and there was nobody in the gym yet. And I went in and I just started training and I kept training. And I guess that's when, Dave, it's crazy. I didn't know. I just did. Does that make sense?
But that goes to the drive of the person you are.
Yeah.
So whether it's boxing, like I just said, it's going to be something. That drive is in you.
Well, it wasn't basketball because I hate team sports.
Yeah, but you know people. You've been around fighters. Some fighters have it, some don't. Yeah. Some athletes have it, some don't.
And I don't understand it because I have it, so I don't understand how you could do this and not have it.
Well, do you attest it from maybe not only you're trying to prove a point to yourself, prove a point to your family and your peers, and also at that time, there are no other women fighters out there. Yeah. So you're in there as a fighter trying to be accepted by your peers, male or female. It doesn't matter, right? Hey, I don't care. You can fight. I don't care, male or female. You can walk the walk, talk the talk, be my guest right there. You're going to get treated the same by me.
And that's how it was with Willie. Willie was like that too because I was tough. And then when I started training with Luigi, I remember he would go running with me. For my first amateur fight, I fought the Empire State Games in Gleason's. It was in Gleason's. And I fought against a girl who had experience and I beat her. And I was just like, but what was crazy? And I shared this story with somebody the other day, and some people may understand this, they may not, they may think it's crazy, but when they raised my hand and told me I won, I couldn't believe it. Because people didn't know I was so broken during that time and I still didn't believe I was deserving of things that when the ref raised my hand, I looked at him and I said, I really lost, didn't I? And he looked at me and I don't even know why I said that, but I was just in such a dark place that I couldn't believe that a ref raising my hand was real.
Right.
It was that bad. It was that such a bad place that I was in. But boxing, it made me realize there was more to life. It brought me out of that because I was physically able to express myself. I was physically able to get the energy, the anger, the whatever struggles out,
Well, you're the artist. The ring is the canvas. You're creating every day what works for you. When we talk to fighters, it's we can tell you, hey, Maureen, throw 1, 2, 3. Hey, your hook is. But you know what? If you're not feeling it, you have to play with your sport to know what works for you, your training and everything else.
Yes, and I learned how to have fun because I was so hard on myself. But then there were moments I did have fun, and I did great. I flowed. But then there were times where I got hard on myself. And I still have those moments, not as much anymore. But I posted something the other day about music. Music has been so therapeutic and so instrumental in my training, just in general. I remember I used to run to Mary J. Blige, you know, and I remember when I was struggling and I was going through my stuff, I was just like running to her music and it was healing. You know, it made me feel like I wasn't alone. Like there were things that she was going through that I could feel and I could resonate with.
Right.
And then when I started dancing salsa and you know, relaxing, loosening up my upper body, because I was out in California and I went to, I was asked to dance in a salsa festival to raise money for a nonprofit organization. It's a non-government funded transitional living facility for homeless children and their families. My pastor actually out there asked me to do it. I said, yeah. So I went out dancing, you know, to like one of the clubs to start I mean, I had my instructor and everything, but then he took me out. He said, okay, come to the club, see what is, you know, and I danced with different guys. I was dancing with him. And the guys are like, relax. I was like, I am. They're like, they were like, no, you're not. And here I am thinking but now it helped my boxing because it helped me to relax. It helped me to be able to, you know, and so when I hear the music, whether it's on or in my head, I can do those dance moves while I'm fighting. And it's freeing.
No, it's funny you say that because, like, look, coming out of the gyms and look, I was with, you know, you remember Pastor Ralph. Mm-hmm. I was with him for many years.
Omni. He came to Omni.
Well, he was at Omni later.
Yeah,
Originally, we were at 152nd and Prospect.
Okay.
When he had the storefront.
Okay.
And music, Spanish music, always for our fighters, and just to loosen up. And even our guys now up here, I'm like, get that rap crap off and start putting something on that you can move.
Rhythm.
You can feel a vibe and a rhythm in yourself to express yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, so now, okay, Empire State Games, wow.
Yeah, right? That's going back.
Now they should bring them back because that was
But here's the crazy part. So back then, I fought my second fight at Nationals. I went to Nationals, paid my own way, and fought the national champ at 132 because I didn't know about making weight. So there was no open and novice. Women weren't in the Olympics yet.
Right.
So there was none of this. And I was like, all right.
Structure.
So we went out to Nationals with Luigi, took me out there, and he's like, okay. I went in, I couldn't make 125. I was 127 because the flight and hydration, I didn't know about any of that. And he's like, I remember I got on the scale for the pre-weigh-in. They're like, you're 127. I'm like, okay. They're like, you need to go up a weight class. I didn't know. So I went to Luigi. I was like, what do I do? He's like, well, we can either fight at 132 or we cannot fight. I said, no, I came here to fight. He's like, okay, so we're going to fight at 132. So I'll never forget, I'm like running on the treadmill and just, you know, sweating, whatever. And my teammate comes in and she's like, I got a good news and bad news. I said, what's the good news? She goes, you're fighting tomorrow. I said, awesome. I said, what's the bad news? She goes, you're fighting the national champ at 132. I was like, oh, well. But you know what? It was like, I was just happy to be there because I just was able to get it was just this, I don't know, it was bigger than me. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, you know, my faith is so important to me, my faith in the Lord. And I say boxing was a gift from God. And what I do with it is my gift back to him. And, you know, just what I've gone through and how I've gone, it wasn't because of boxing, because God gave me boxing. And I trusted God with the gift that he gave me. And it's brought me to places that I never dreamt of being, including $1 Million Baby, including just being in California, training with Lomachenko, running with Vasily Lomachenko. Like, what? You know, training with Victor Ortiz. Like,
listen,
you know what I mean? Like,
I attest that to you. It's like, and you know, because look, 95% of the boxers are very humble people out there. We're, you know, and, you know, when you go, I attest boxing to, we go to camp, it's like going to Yankee Stadium and being on the field with Yankee. You know, like you said, you're out there with Lomachenko, Victor Ortiz, whoever else is in the gym.
Yeah.
And these are the guys that you see on mainstream TV, and they're just doing their job in the gym.
Yeah.
And you're out there. It's got to elevate your game. It's got to take you to another level to say, man, I'm watching world champions do, and yeah, I could do that. Or,
well, you know what's funny? I always say being the female, I feel like it was always a gift because I got paid attention to, but not really. So I was almost like the fly on the wall.
Was it the paid attention to because people were maybe scared of you succeeding?
You know, I don't know. I don't know, but I never questioned. I just did. Because if you're not going to wrap my hands, then I'm going to figure out how to wrap my own hands. If you're not going to tell me how to hit the bag, I'm going to figure out how to hit the bag. And most of the time that I trained, I would go and watch video. So Fernando Vargas was one of my favorite fighters, or is, you know, obviously I know Fernando too. I know his sons. I sparred with his youngest.
Oh, wow.
You know, when he was a little nugget, I got a picture of me and him, you know, with Emiliano. And I know Amado and Fernando, you know, because I trained with Roger Romo with Fernando's brother in Oxnard. So, it was just interesting. Like, I used to watch Fernando, and I used to watch him when he fought Trinidad, and I used to watch Roy Jones, and I used to watch Sergio Martinez, Kelly Pell. And I studied them, and I would copy their moves. So fast forward a bit after I left Willie, and then I'm with Luigi. Luigi brought me to Gleason's gym to Hector Roca.
Right.
And so when I started training with Hector was difficult. Hector, it was like he taught me the basics, and he was really good at teaching me the basics, but I felt like he wasn't going to teach me anything fancy. He just was like, just stay doing this, which he was very good at technique, which is why I am such a technical fighter.
A fundamental trainer.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. I mean,
Exactly.
Great trainer, great guy.
Yeah. So I just was like, okay, well, if he's not going to teach me, I figured Hector out. Lots of ego, like all you guys got it. You know what I mean? So what I figured is let me go and learn a move, bring it back, try it, and then make him fix it so it's his. And that's what I did. So I was like putting my hands behind my back, doing like the chicken like Roy. I was doing like crazy things, and he would teach me and he would show me. Then he saw that I had the rhythm. Then he started teaching me more about the movement. Then it was like the angles. Then it was all this. And then that was it.
Do you think he was testing you in the beginning?
I think
your experience now, maybe you didn't see it then, but maybe he was looking to see how hungry you wanted.
I think that it got to a point with Hector where that was not necessary anymore, and it started to hurt me. It became abusive
because you were looking to evolve, and he was not evolving you. But I think sometimes goes back to our fit with trainers, right? Mm-hmm. You have to be able to mesh with the trainer, and the trainer has to be able to mesh with you, okay? And, Hector Roca was training a lot of people at that time.
Mm-hmm. But I was coming in at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I got there, and I was going to college. I was at Iona College. I was coming in. I sometimes would take the bus and 3 trains to the gym.
Yeah, and that's a haul to Brooklyn.
And then sometimes I would have to get there at 6 because I couldn't afford parking. So I have to park my car and wait for somebody to leave to park my car. And then I would train with him at 6 a.m, run the Brooklyn Bridge 4 times, go to school, and then eat out of the trunk of my car. I can't eat tuna to this day because I was living on tuna, rice, chicken, spinach, yams. I ate whatever I had to do. That was during the times of the Golden Gloves. And it was even with $1 Million Baby. And I'm proud of myself, and I can say this today, that during that time, my main thing, everybody's like, oh, Hillary Swank, oh, this, oh, that. I'm like, I was in college. Like, I had an academic scholarship. Like, my father told me, in this house, you have to work and go to school. You can't do all 3. When he found out that I was boxing. You know what? I was proving my dad wrong for a long time. And I was like, well, I don't want him to take this away from me. You know what I mean? I don't want him to kick me out of the house. So I had to keep my academic scholarship. I was boxing. So for me, boxing wasn't even my main thing. I had to make boxing work with school and work.
Of your schedule.
Because otherwise my father was like, nope, you're out. So it forced me to really, be disciplined and committed and let go a lot of bullshit that I could have been involved in, which I didn't have time. And which is why I'm also not married today.
Yeah. But at this time, who else is your support group? You're doing all of this, okay? Forget about going to school, going to work, being a full-time fighter, and get ready to fight and make weight because you're in that class that you got to cut weight, okay? Who is your support group outside of the boxing point? Because now you're new in the sport, moving around with people, trying to figure out your little niche, where it works for you, who's going to work with me, who am I really comfortable, who's going to elevate me to where I want to be.
Well, I wasn't alone. Luigi was always my sounding board and really my guide through all this. And, there was a point with Hector where, I knew it was time to leave because it became, like I said, it got to a very abusive point, and it was more hurting me than helping me. When I fought for my first world title in Madison Square Garden on Cotto's undercard, I was fighting for the WBA 130-pound title, and Hector went with a male fighter to Belgium and left me to fight by myself. So I fought.
Who took you to that fight?
Luigi, and there was what's his name? Luigi, and one of the guys that Hector had as like an assistant, but it wasn't Hector. You don't leave your fighter. No. Listen, so this is the thing. I'm not, and again, it's like, it is what it is, but like this kid that was fighting in the Philippines or wherever he was fighting in Belgium, he wasn't fighting for a world title. So for whatever reason, he chose that. I don't know. You'd have to ask him, but he's not here to answer that, but I don't know. So that was the beginning of the end for me. Yeah. And then the second fight, that was my first loss because I blew my eardrum in that fight. I dropped her in the first round. I was doing well, and she was a bigger girl. I was never a 130 pounder. You know, I walk around now at 127. You know what I mean? So I'm a 118, 122. I didn't realize it till later on in life, but you know, I had to fight at different weight classes back then because I couldn't get fights.
Right, those were the
girls. It was like
those
different.
were the opportunities that were coming.
And like today, like there's some of these younger girls. Like I had an argument with one of the girls on Instagram because they don't. They're so not even connected to what women like myself, Alicia Ashley, you know, Christy Martin, all these women that came, you know, Lucia Raker, what we did to Layla McCarter. I mean, I can go on for you know, I have a list of women that I admired. I was at Layla McCarter's fight when she fought Melissa Del Val. And I looked up to Melissa Del Val. Yeah. That was my first female pro fight I saw, and that was at the county center. It was in the back in a barn. And you know where they had the horse races?
Yonkers Raceway.
There you
go.
Yes. There you go. Yonkers Raceway in the back. There was a barn.
Joe used to put the shows down there.
DeGuardi used to do the shows. Yeah. I remember I was like 18, 19 years old, and I went with the guys from Omni. They invited me to go because I think Antonio Jalapeno was fighting on the card.
No, they probably had
Newton Kid was fighting.
No, they had Andre Turkson fighting on that card on Showtime.
Okay.
The main event.
That's right. I remember Andre with Crazy Ray.
Yeah.
He trained Crazy Ray.
And Pastor trained him
later on
in his career.
Yes.
But
yeah, I mean, we're going back to like, so.
Yeah, but you said, you know, we talk, not to get off the thing, but you're throwing names out there.
Yeah.
You guys set for what's happening in women boxing today.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, like, and I saw Alicia the other day, and it was great to see her, you know, and Ronica Jeffries fighting on the Team Combat, and Alicia Napoleon, and
I saw that
you know,
too,
so I went to see the girls and to support them, and I got to see Alicia, and you know, we talked a bit, and you know, it's tough now because at 43, I'm doing this at the elite level, but I have nobody to talk to that's at my level doing this. You know what I mean? Like around me. You know, so I have Alicia, and I'm grateful for that because I'm gonna be picking her brain. You know, and I know she was in Shanghai for quite a while, and now that she's back and she's in Florida, you know, I'll be talking to her and stuff. You know, so it's good to have that support. But yeah, back then it was very different. You know, and that's why today, I love the sport. I don't care. Like, however these girls want to promote themselves, whatever they want to do. I just know I've always kind of walked my own path. So my favorite quote growing up was, "Do not go where the path may lead, go where there is no path and leave a trail." And that was Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I was an English major. You know, so these are my things. I hung on to quotes to what do I resonate with? You know, another quote that I love is, "The truth is still the truth if no one believes it. And a lie is still a lie if everyone believes it." So own your truth. You know, owning my truth and just saying, it doesn't matter if people, I don't got to prove myself to anybody anymore. I broke myself of that, you know, that feeling that like my dad, then it was Hector, then it was, oh, I got to prove to everybody that I'm not just a sparring partner for an Oscar Award winner. And now I got to prove, okay, I lost a fight. Now I got to prove that I come back and win another one. Then I lost another fight. Now I just don't give a shit. Now I'm doing this because I can. I don't need boxing. I don't. I want boxing.
Yeah.
And there's a different fight in a fighter when they want it and they don't need it.
Right. I mean, you know, when you want it, your decision becomes a lot different because you're looking at your opportunities that are going to fit you, not out of desperation, not because that's an opportunity.
Yeah, but I used to be like that. I used to think like that because I didn't know.
Because realistically, come on, let's go to Katie Taylor in Serrano, one of the biggest cards out there in women's boxing. The gate, the people watching, and a great fight. You know, hindsight being 2020, would you have anticipated that 25 years ago?
No way.
Starting in the sport? I don't think anybody would have. I don't think anybody would have.
I felt like it was going to grow, and I wasn't like, I didn't stick with boxing because I was like, oh, I want to see where it's going to go, and I want to be a part of it. I stuck with boxing because it was still good for me. Like, it was always good.
Good, or because you're a competitive athlete?
I was always pulled back. Like I prayed. I said, God, if I'm done, just let me know. If this is it, if I've gotten, because it was hard, you know, like being self-promoted and going through fights falling through and things like that and unfair business and things like that. But, you know, I prayed about it. And every time God brought me back better and with a new mind and a new vision and a new everything. And that's why I'm just like, okay. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to keep doing it till, you know what I mean? Like, till I'll know. And when people ask me, I'm like, God will let me know.
Yeah, God, you know, and look, we're in better shape today. Conditioning has changed.
Oh, yeah.
You know, nutrition has changed. That you're able to, you know, where, look, I'm older and look, back in the day, there
But
wasn't.
you look like you haven't aged since last time I saw you.
but
You
know
look
what?
great.
Thank you. But, the factors around us right now are there to help us recover, help us to stay healthy.
Well, yes.
We have more knowledge today than being the mad scientist to cut weight back in the day. I mean, the guys are still out there doing the crazy things to make cut weight.
Yeah.
But if you're following the plan, following the process, and you're dedicated to your sport, you're all in. You should be able to.
Well, that was part of my evolution too, was the education of myself, because I'm always going to be in shape. I'm always going to be, this is just who I am. My mother's 80. She swims an hour a day and walks 3 miles.
Yeah, so you got the genes.
It's there. Oh, yeah. It's like my mother, and they're identical twins, and my aunt and my mother, they're very different. So I get that. And my mother gets it. Like, she'll stay over at my house, and we'll get up in the morning. I'll go run. She'll go swim. You know what I mean? Then we meet back for lunch. It's great. But, like, I'm very fortunate for that, and to have my mother and to have a mother like that. But I'll always be that person. But it was like I had to figure out what worked for me. And what I think fighters need to understand is, like, what works for me isn't going to work for you.
100%.
Everybody's different. But as a woman, I had to go in and do some, like, understanding, my metabolism, understanding. And I was a food addict. I had an addiction to food. I was a binge eater. I had gained weight and lost weight so many times in my life, people thought I was an undisciplined fighter. No, I had an addiction. And I went to Overeaters Anonymous. And I had to get help. And I know my triggers. And I know, like, the other day I had sugar. I had way too much sugar. And it's like a psychological effect. It like put me into like and I was like, no, I got to stop this. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, no sugar. But it was like a birthday party. So I'm not going to, like, you need food to live.
Yeah.
You don't need to drink. You don't need to do drugs, but you need food. And there's sugar in everything. But I took sugar to another level where I knew I was going down it. And I'm like, okay, now what do you got to bring it back?
Cut it back.
But it's also like just being honest with yourself and giving yourself the opportunity to get to know yourself and failing. Being okay with failing to rebuild. I mean, I wasn't a failure. I wasn't okay, but I failed in moments, and I had, losses and things, but I learned and I grew.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, look, if you're not learning, losses, unfortunately, nobody likes them, right? We don't like to lose. You're competitive. Nobody likes to lose, coaches.
But I'm like, if I'm going to lose, why?
But, okay, you lose a fight, and let's look and see why. Okay? Did we follow the plan? Did you miss opportunities? Was your opponent just better?
But look at what you said. But look at what you said. You said we. We look at it. There were times. Hey,
Maureen, I'm a big advocate of team. And I know boxing is not like that.
But you said it organically. You know what I'm saying? And that's I know it. But I know that because I know you. But I know because you just said it organically. There's people that I've trained with that didn't say we.
Yeah.
That they put me down and pretty much like blamed me. Meanwhile, I already was blaming myself. I never blamed anybody else. And it was horrible to go through that alone.
I don't know. Coming out of team sports and everything, look, we look at, especially boxing now. I've been around the old-time trainers. I've seen them, no disrespect to any of them. A lot of successful people out there. But there's more eyes on a fighter right now can be helpful. The right people around you. The right people around the fighter.
Oh, of course.
Okay, like it's not just the trainer, hey, go run your 6 miles, do this. No, we need to bring a strength coach in. We need to maybe have a nutritionist depending on what your problem or no problem with weight or what we're building. We need recovery. So you need different opinions and have to have an open mind.
But it's also the fighter. It's the up. And I tell this to fighters. I'm like, and I said this. I flipped out the other day. I'm hitting the heavy bag, and one of the kids was complaining about his weight, saying it's so hard for him to make weight. He's 23 years old. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I lost my mind. So you know what your problem is? You don't live the life of a professional athlete. That's your problem. I was hitting the bag. I turned around. I'm like, and Derek's like, and I'm like, I'm just so tired because I understand. And I'm like, how is it that I'm 43 and I can make weight and you got a problem? I'm like. And he's like, well, I'm eating the same thing. I'm like, well, that's probably your problem. You need to change it up a little bit. And then, he came from a rough upbringing. So I toned it down a little bit later on and I was like more mothering.
You know what? I get that sometimes because it is a little different. Some families of fighters, they don't have the means, okay? But a good team is going to get you the means. They're going to help you.
Yes, but what I'm saying is back to the fighter is that they have to be also responsible.
Yes.
Gratitude. Listen, there's not a day that I'm grateful to be on this podcast with you. I'm grateful that we got to reconnect. That's why when you asked me, I was like, yeah, I have gratitude because it's like, where I came from and where I came from and all of that. And it's like, and I get to tell my story and I get to share and I get to, talk to you. And I'm grateful for every moment.
Well, you know what? Forget the boxing end of it because that is part, but staying with something today grinding something out that is hard is not in a lot of people's DNA anymore. We go through the schools. You're in the gyms. You're talking to people. You meet people. It is not everybody. And I don't like to use the word quit. People give up too fast, or it's too hard.
Well, it's instant gratification.
It's too hard.
But it's mostly fear. A lot of times when people quit, it's fear. And there was times in my life that I just didn't want to continue something because I was afraid. It was fear. But when it came to boxing, I was like, there was something bigger than me. Like I said, it was God that was like, this is scary, but you got to do it. You need this. Like, because there was a time where I needed it. I needed boxing. But now it's like, oh, I can not box and still be healthy and live because I have all the tools and I've developed all the stuff.
Yeah, you developed other things outside of it through boxing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some fighters don't. Some fighters do. They're able to.
But
develop
I'm talking about not even like I'm talking about like understanding weight management, understanding even my nutritionist. She's my best friend, and there's times I check in with her. There's times I don't because she's like I said, Melissa, I made an executive decision because I need to be independent. I can't have her telling me what to eat for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. And a good team is like, look, at the end of the day, the fighter is going to make the decisions.
Yeah.
Fighters, it's you in the ring.
Well, you got to know when the fighter needs to be led and then when the fighter needs to take responsibility.
Yeah, during camp, they don't be led. No, I understand that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it depends on the fighter. You know what I mean? Like
I've had fighters live with me, okay? My heavyweight, Giuseppe Cusimano, lives in Virginia. When he comes here, he lives with me for 10 weeks during
How's
camp.
your wife feel about that? She's a saint. God bless her.
I'll answer that offline.
God bless her.
But by the last week of camp, you know how you guys are. It's just like,
Listen, no. Don't put me in that. I'm wonderful.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I'll tell you, because I don't struggle to make weight. So I'm not mean. I'm just tired and I want to fight. So yes, that part of it, yes.
Right.
But I'm not like some fighters that are like, I'm excited. I'm like, okay, now it's time to have fun. But I wasn't always like that.
For me, camp is long. It is, and it's trying, and you got a lot of personalities meshing together.
Oh, yeah.
Getting ready for a fight. The fight is the dance. You get to get dressed up and go to the dance.
But any fighter would say it. Like, once the weigh-in's over, it's like,
we're done.
Like, everything's like, let's just go have fun now.
That's it.
You got past the injuries, because most of the injuries happen in camp.
Yeah, the camp, the whole thing, the lead up to the fight, the anxiety to the fight, getting ready. But we'll redirect, because I want to ask you this. So now, after working with Hector, how do you end up in Oxnard, California? And look, it is a boxing hotbed, and you were in a great gym with great people out there.
So there was like a little bit of a time where I was in Jersey and I was training at the Hackensack PAL. Okay. And I was training there because I wanted to get away from Brooklyn. I needed a separation from Hector, and I needed to heal for myself. And so I was training there, and Tommy Brooks was there, and Terrific Gist was there. And Tommy would always watch me, and that's when Vivian Harris was there, and Monty Barrett was there, and Pavel Wallach was there, and they were all training there, and I just did my own thing. I didn't really talk. I mean, I was nice to everybody, but I was there to work. And Tommy watched me for a while, and then he started giving me like little tips with my right hand and this, that, and the other, and my jab. And then Luigi and Danny Milano, Danny, my cut man, they came and we approached Tommy and we asked him if he'd work with me. And Tommy said, I don't work with women, but I'll work with her. And I believe it was because of my work ethic. I mean, I know he saw the talent, but I think it was really the work ethic. And I wasn't a problem. I didn't come in trying to socialize, I wanted to work.
No, you come in to work.
Yeah. And so he respected that. So I started working with Tommy, and then Tommy brought Terrific in. Tommy ended up going to California to train, I think it was like the Chinese Olympic team or something like that. And Terrific ended up becoming my head coach. So I trained with Terrific, and I won my first title with Terrific. I won the NABF title with him. I fought actually with Lisa Elovich. She promoted the show, who also is my partner with One with Life Tequila. And so I fought with Terrific. I had a couple fights with Terrific, but I was trained in Patterson. I'm going to train with him this week. We have great memories together, and I love him. That's my dog. I love him to death. We went through so much together. But I was struggling internally with depression. I had seasonal affective disorder. So during the winter months, the serotonin in my brain would drop. So I have a chemical imbalance, and I still have that. I have bipolar disorder in my family, and there's a mental illness in my family. So something came out in me, and it was that. So I tried light therapy. I've been in therapy since I was 7. I've always struggled with it. I've been on various medications, antidepressants that didn't work for me, that hurt me. And I just decided, I think it's time to be in consistent sunlight. My mom's sister, her twin sister, was living in Los Angeles. So I would go out and visit, and I started working, actually, while I was still living here, I started working with a nutritionist in Ventura, Robert Ferguson. And I would go visit Robert while I was training with Terrific, but I'd go see him and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I said, I could live here. It was beautiful. And then the opportunity presented itself that I could go. And I took a leap of faith. I left everything. I lived off my savings because I was running Global Boxing Gym at the time. I was the president of Global Boxing Gym. Yeah. So, I mean, I've done a lot of things, but I was
going to ask you about that. I mean, you're doing all of this and you're funding your career pretty much yourself.
Well, I had to work.
Yeah, but I'm saying this is all.
But you know what? I had support. I had people that supported me, and I had sponsors that supported me. So it wasn't just like Luigi was probably the biggest supporter that I had. But I had to work. And Luigi would tell me, you know, when I would go into my depression and I couldn't work or he'd say, you're no good when there's time on your hands, when you have time on your hands, because I'd be in my head. Mm-hmm. And my head was so strong. Like my will is strong. My mind is stronger than my body. But it was going in a bad way.
Right.
And I didn't know what it was, how to get out of it. So when I moved to California, it was just like I was able to start over. And it was very hard. It was the hardest but the easiest thing I think I ever did. The hardest because I loved working with Terrific and I loved my team in Patterson and all the guys that I worked with.
Yeah, you seem to have established a really good base. It was a good gym. A lot of
wonderful.
Fighters, great trainers.
And T and I were on a freaking winning streak. We were like killing it.
You're starting to move in the area, get some popularity now, and people are knowing you. And oof.
Yeah. And then I said it was time. It was time. And I moved to California and I started training with Joseph Janik. And I had met Haas. I worked mitts with Haas one time because I was out there with Robert. And Robert was like, "Oh yeah, come to this gym. You'll meet Haas." You know, he was working with. Fernando Vargas. He worked with Fernando, but Fernando gave him the name Haas, head of squad security.
Yeah.
You know, so then, but Haas has been around boxing and he boxed
he was
too.
with a lot of people at that time. He was pretty hot in the sport at that time.
So I went out there and I worked with him and I was very grateful. And Haas is a salt of the earth human being and definitely loves his fighters and cares, like genuinely cares and gives everybody their time. So I was very blessed to have been able to work with him and Robert Ferguson. And then I worked with like different strength coaches out there. And I just kind of started finding my way. And then I was, fighting in Mexico, and then I was main eventing in Oxnard, and then I was, I won the WBC, the interim WBC title, then I won the IFBA title, then I fought for the IBF 122-pound title, which ended in a draw, but that was in the Forum under Shane Mosley's card. I was the co-feature to that. That was in 2015 or 16. And so, things went on. Then I had an injury, and I was out for almost 2 years with my injury. People didn't know about it because I'm not one to put, when I got to deal with stuff, I got to deal with it for myself. And so I had the injury and then I was able to come back. I've rebuilt myself so many times that now I'm just like, all right, listen, that's my faith. I'm just like, well, God, what are we going to do? As long as I do my part, which is stay healthy, make sure your recovery's on point, make sure your nutrition's on point, make sure your sleep is on point, he'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, now you have a lot of things going on also. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about where do you put yourself in this sport?
Now?
As far as,
I'm one of the best women in the world. It's just unfortunate that I'm not getting the opportunity to show that. There's nobody that has my style. Women don't move like me, and I know that. But you know what? I'm happy knowing that. I know, like I said, the truth is the truth if no one believes it. You know what I mean? So, and that's a confidence that I have. And there's a ton of talented women out there. And I think it's great. But I think that, the women's boxing is going how it's going. But I believe that I'm on the path that I'm supposed to be on. It's not an easy one. My career has never been easy. My path in my life has never been easy. But I've always been up for the challenge. And it's almost like I don't know, if things were so smooth and so easy, I don't know if I'd be comfortable. Which is kind of weird to say, but
yeah, I know. I think sometimes we
thriving off the struggle.
Uncomfort, grinding, it makes us better people, makes us want it more. It tests us at times.
And listen, and there's times where I'm just like, how long do I want to be doing this for? They laugh at me in the gym all the time because I'm like, oh, one more year. All right, and maybe 2 more years. And then everybody's just looking at me. I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, it's really God. I'll know. I'll know when it's time because I pray about it every day. And I know that he'll tell me when it's time. But I feel great. I've got a fight coming up in June. That'll be announced soon. And then we might have another fight coming up in July. They're keeping me super busy, which is what I need. I fought in August. Mm-hmm. I actually fought with a fracture on my shoulder. Nobody knew that. So, that toughness, I found out after the fight when I went to shake the promoters.
Left or right?
Yeah, right? And
left or right?
Well, they'll know now. But now it's healed. Listen, it's my right. It was my right, but I went to shake the promoter's hand, and when I couldn't lift my arm. after the fight. I had no idea. Like that's why the mind.
All the adrenaline drained out of you. That's why.
I went 8 rounds and I was just like everything I had. And then after the fight, we went to the restaurant to eat. I went to raise my hand and I was like, oh my God, I can't lift my arm. And then I went home and I got an MRI and I had a subacute. It was subacute. So it was healing already because I was already doing, listen, I go to physical therapy twice a month. Let's talk about recovery. Physical therapy twice a month.
We talk about recovery right in the sport and I'm big on it. You know, because back in the day we weren't.
Yeah.
I mean, and today it's just like, it's there. So what are you doing for recovery now? Because I know I have an idea because of, I do follow your career and what's being done out there. But what are you doing for yourself now?
So the most important thing for me, I think, therapy. I'm in therapy. I speak to a sports performance coach too. I have her more so like I had a session with her yesterday, which was really great. But I speak with the therapist every week, or every other week. So that's for my mental health. I have a church community. I have a great group of girls in Bible study that I can turn to, and they pray for me, and that's wonderful. I also have my I do my cold plunges. I have my Normatec boots, my sleep, my eating, my massage therapy. I see my physical therapist twice a month, regardless whether I'm not injured. I really don't get injured because I maintain this. So it's injury prevention. I see Christiana. Baron twice a month. And then I have my masseuse, Rick, who comes to my house twice a month. And if I need extra, I'll go extra. But it's really the rest and recovery. I live the life of a fighter. I'm very disciplined, but I'm also like, I like to go to bed at 8:30. I mean, people think it's crazy.
Yeah, but walk us through your day. You're probably up early, running, training.
Yeah, I get up. So I get up usually at 5 a.m. I got my dog. I take him out. And then, Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. So Mondays are bag work, mitt work days. I don't spar and I don't train as much as I used to. I had to taper it back because
it's smarter now.
You don't need to.
Smarter,
exactly.
not harder.
Exactly.
You're working on things that, okay, if you're getting ready to fight, you're obviously going to know who your opponent is.
Yeah.
What do I need to do for this
Sometimes.
Okay, but, or what am I focusing on to be, to take into this fight?
Yeah. So then Mondays is floor work for me. It went in camp, and then Wednesdays, Fridays is sparring. That's all I do those days. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I get up in the morning and I go for a run. It's called a Zone 3 run. So I keep my heart rate into a certain zone. Phil Daru does all my programming, my strength and conditioning, and he's been working with me since 2016. He's phenomenal. He's
watch
great.
Some of his stuff. It's just really.
It's funny. I watch me on some of his stuff, and I'm just like, it makes me tired. Like I do that. But yeah, so I'm there, and he's super. He's great. He's a great coach. I'm able to talk to him, and Derek Santos as well. The same thing. I have a really good team. They talk to each other if they need to, but most of the time, I'm the one communicating because I'm with Phil all the time. I talk to him more than I talk to anybody, And then Derek, obviously, same thing.
So Derek's taking you through how many fights now?
Four, I think. 4. And it's funny because I told him, I'm like, you still haven't been in the shit with me. Like, you haven't been in the shit with me yet. You've been like, oh, Maureen's always good. I'm like, I feel like a shitstorm's coming somewhere.
Yeah. And how's training with him?
Good. It's crazy. He's my boyfriend too, which is another.
Yeah, I know that's got to be complicated.
You know what?
As far as
I swore I'd never shit where I ate, and I didn't think, but it's interesting. He's so the opposite of anybody I've ever dated, and he's so the opposite of me. But you know what? When we're at work, it's really not. I mean, it's not. It's tough sometimes, but he's so patient, and I have to tell you, his patience.
Yeah. I've seen him up here a couple of times on a couple of shows, and I haven't had a chance to.
Oh, you'd love him. He's a good man.
I watch. He's very well versed and everything.
Very humble.
Does the boyfriend-girlfriend thing come into the training?
No. I mean, he said the other day, he's like, because I came back to the corner and I was like, well, he said something to me. I was like, well, am I getting hit? Because I'm not getting hit. I move my head. He's like, no, but I want to make sure you keep moving because I don't want to see you get hit. But he doesn't want to see anybody get hit. Like, he's not. That's just how he is. I don't think so. I think it's more so the hard part for him would be that, I go into this place when I'm training that I'm very cold and I'm very to myself. And but I said, listen, you signed up for this, buddy. I said, I love you, but.
You should know that already right off the
But
rip.
it's still hard.
It is.
And I told him, I said, it's hard to be with a male fighter, female fighter. It's difficult. But you know what? He's a good man. He's a patient man. There's nobody in boxing that could say a bad thing about him. He's got a heart of gold, and I know how much he cares about his fighters. And so, and it's, that's. And I still, listen, the bottom line is he trusts me, and he should trust me. Because look, I need to be able to be free to do what I need to do for me. And sometimes in relationships, it's not that easy.
No, and as coaches either, sometimes it's hard to figure out what your fighter is. We all know coaches want to hold some of their fighters down. They're afraid they're going to go to somewhere else. They're going to leave. Listen, if that's the case, that's the case.
And that's Derek's thing. Like, I think we both feel like that as a couple. Like, if you're not, but we communicate. You know what I mean? Like, we're super open. We super communicate. Even like some days, we may have a little heated moment, mostly for me because I'm more of the spicy one in the relationship. And then we'll come back and, we'll say, okay, and again, I'm not easy. He's very stubborn, so he's not easy to be with. But who is easy to be with? Who isn't?
No.
But at the end of the day, I love him. He's a good man, and I'm grateful for him. And he's a phenomenal coach. He really, really is. And he's a patient coach. But you know what the best thing about him is? It's hard when I have a style like myself, and I'm a veteran. So there's things about me that you can't change. He never tried to change me. What he did was he just enhanced me. That's a good coach.
Well, absolutely. And, look, you get fighters that have certain styles.
Yeah.
Okay? I have Giuseppe who can punch like a mule. Okay? Certain things he does well. I'm not changing that. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to make you better.
Yeah.
What can we add to your game to make you better? Not change everything around.
But some coaches train fighters some coaches train all the fighters the same way.
But that's ego.
And there's a lot of that.
That's ego. Okay? And you know what? I'm not an ego guy, and I go back to the team sport. Okay? You take football. There's a head coach and there's position coaches all across the line.
There's a
the
reason.
head coach don't come down every minute that someone else is coaching and stop them. They speak in a meeting and say, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the plan, whatever the case. They try to work it together. And that's, I don't know. To me, that works in boxing. Like, I like to work with people that I can yin and yang with. I have a great...
But, I think that's where, like, with Phil and Derek, I think I always had, because I worked with Phil before I worked with Derek, and I knew what I wanted. And when Derek and I first worked together, we didn't mesh. I came out to Florida when I was visiting my family, and I worked with him, and I was like, he's too slow for me. And he was like, he didn't feel it was for me either. And I was just like, okay. And then I went back to California and I trained with another coach. And then I realized Derek's exactly what I needed, that I wasn't ready for him. That was the problem. And then when I came back, we had a better understanding. And I was also I decided I was living in Florida. And so, if it would have worked with him then, for as far as the training goes and as far as the, our chemistry with the training went, I probably would have stayed in Florida then. But it wasn't time, and I went through some lessons back in California that I needed to go through, and some experiences that sharpened me and made me better and able to help others that that may go through it. So it was all design. It was all by design.
You're doing a lot of advocate work out there. You speak a lot. I see. You're out there with the nonprofit, telling your story, being an inspiration to everybody. Do you see yourself coaching?
I don't know if traditional coaching, I would definitely come in and consulting, you know what I mean? Or doing some online stuff. I don't know about, listen, I've tried my hand in a couple of different things. I've coached, I've managed. I actually have a fighter fighting on bare knuckle. I have a fighter that I manage, Daniel Strauss, who's fighting on BKFC in Mohegan Sun.
The 11th on Heather's card?
Yep. So he's actually, I think he's co-main of that card. He's fighting Jimmy Rivera from Connecticut. And Daniel's a tough guy. He's a Bellator champion. He's older, rugged.
Yeah.
Rugged, and he'll fight. He'll show up and he'll fight. But he's a good guy. And I wanted to help him out, because I know some things here, and I wanted to use my resources to kind of help him out too. He's just a good human, So I got my hands in a couple of different things.
Yeah, because you have a lot of experience. But if a girl walked into the gym tomorrow and said, Maureen, I want you to coach me, and you saw something, is it far-fetched?
No,
or is it
I don't know. I don't know full time if I would do it, just because I love business. I love what I do for Phil. I love the behind the scenes work. I love all of that. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
it went down?
It went down.
I didn't even look.
It was almost there.
It went down?
Yeah, it went down.
All right.
But
Hey, Ian, I got to let you do that next time.
But yeah, I mean, I think I would probably assist, and I would be a part of it, and I would probably give her some guidance. But I have Evelyn Romo. Evelyn Romo's my sparring partner. She's making her pro debut May 4th in Houston, and I've worked with her. But
Right.
I mean, Derek's her main coach, and Brian Garber works with her. But I'm there. I mentor. So I like more of the mentorship part of it because I love business. I love meeting people and going out. I've traveled with Phil. You know, we worked with Mr. Beast. Like, that was cool. You know, I get to do these different things. I mean, I live this amazing life. And I'm so grateful. It's crazy sometimes that I'm living it.
You know what? Boxing, it's a small community that leads into a lot of different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I don't, you know, we talked, I'm sitting here doing a podcast. I would have never thought, you know, somebody asked me this.
What was that, 6 years ago that came up? That was 6 years ago or 5 years ago?
At least 5 or 6 that you were up here last time.
I had short hair. I look at it by my hair, my hair length.
Yeah, down at Main Street in Mount Vernon, yeah. But, so now, getting ready to fight, when does camp start for you? Or is it officially?
I'm in it. I've been in it. So we had a camp going from like November, and I had a couple fights fall through. So I said, okay, now I need to take a break. And I went to Arizona to see my best friend, and it was super healing and relaxing. I had this trip planned as well. So, but I'm out here training. I got terrific. I'm training with Vinny tomorrow, my strength coach, and I've got my running and everything like that. I was sparring. I sparred Monday. I only spar twice a week anyway, so I'll spar when I get back, and then I'm going to head to Houston for Evelyn's fight, and I'll commentate there, and then but I stay ready. Like it's like I can't.
Yeah, your lifestyle,
but I know
you're
how.
in it.
It's not like I know when to like go. So camp will like. I mean, I don't need a pre-camp because
you're there.
I'm already there. You know,
You're
my
there.
weight's there. I'm already in shape. You know, so it's like I just need to like peak at the right time. So that's Derek and Phil's job to know when I'm peaking. And Phil knows how to keep me, you know, here, but he also knows me.
I mean, you look in great shape.
Thanks. Yeah,
You know, right off
17% body fat.
Yeah, you look in great shape. You know, I'm sure now just to get ready and polish it up and
you know, Phil
plan.
said it to me. You know, when I came back in 2023, because I had a 2.5 year layoff because COVID happened, all this stuff happened. My father passed away, all this stuff. People thought I was retired. I never retired. But Phil was like, Maureen, all you got to do is get in shape. Like, that's all you got to do is get in shape. And he made it sound so easy that I was like, you know, he's right. And then but then it was like a lot harder than it sounds. You know what I mean? Like it's, you know, but you know what though?
Yeah, but you're living the lifestyle.
Yes. Right? And then I
What's
realized
your record
it.
now?
31-2 with 13 knockouts. Yeah.
How many belts have you held?
4. I've doing it long time. 26 years.
30 wins.
Yeah.
31. 31. I'm sorry.
It's not on BoxRec because I don't know why, but
yeah, 31.
It's supposed to be, 31.
What was it? The fight in Mexico didn't go up on BoxRec?
No, the one in Dominican Republic.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Some nonsense. Meanwhile, it was a real fight. It happened and everything. And the girl went 8 rounds and it wasn't like a, you know.
But, you know, that's a great career right there.
Yeah.
If you were to walk away today.
But you know what I say to people? If God told me tomorrow, this is it, I'd be smiling. I'd be okay. Because I've lived more of a fulfilling life than I ever imagined I could have lived. And I'm still living it.
Right.
And it's like, but gratitude.
But you have a lot to offer, not only as a fighter, but what you've went through in the sport personally and where you are today. You know, take away the boxing, you're successful.
Yeah.
You're a successful individual.
Yeah.
Okay, boxing, may have put you in a position to get certain things where you are, but you're succeeding. You're living a life, you know, you're out there functioning every day.
Yeah.
Like you said, you don't need boxing.
Yeah. I'm very grateful.
Now you can pick and choose and say, yeah, I want to take that fight.
Yeah.
Or you know what, I want to strap it up one more time for a belt and just walk away and say like this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an empowering feeling. It's an empowering feeling. And it's nice because I don't got to get like, I'll get involved in the craziness for a second, then I'll pull myself away and be like, no.
So we're not going to see you promoting when you say craziness.
Oh, I mean, I did that already
I know
too.
You have,
but
I mean, like full blown.
I don't know. The managing thing right now is driving me crazy because I'm already handling his medicals and doing all this. And I'm already like, and I don't know if I can go to the fight because I'm in camp because I'm fighting in June, but I got everybody out there. So I'm going to be watching that. But it's hard. You know, my heart, I can't. I have to like pull it all in and just be here when it's like when we're 5 weeks out, 6 weeks out. I got to be like here, you know?
Yeah,
so that's
you got to be
time.
focusing.
And I can. But I have a great support system around me. I have great people. My mother, my brother, you know, my aunt, like my family is very supportive. My father's no longer with us, but he's watching me. And, you know, I call it, this is him right here. This is his cross and his badge, his NYPD badge. So he's always with me.
So, you know, when did that start to change for your parents and really say, hey, we have something here that
I don't think they ever it really got to that. I think they just were like, let her go. Like, let her do it because she's doing well. She loves it. They were more happy for my happiness.
Yeah.
And my mom, like, when my fights fall through, like, I'm bummed, but I'm like, because I have so much other things going on in my life. It's not like, if a fight falls through, it's not like, who am I? It's like, okay, well, I'm going to go do this.
I got work.
I got other stuff I got to do. When's the next fight? All right,
but in the beginning, when they first came to watch you, forget as a pro, how was that?
Oh, no. My mother, it was like, they were like, when are you going to quit? Like, when are you done? Like, my father's like, this is ridiculous. He's like, how are you going to make money? Because my dad was all about me supporting myself.
Being stable.
Yeah, of course. And he never
being independent, which you are. Which obviously he did a great job, so like, again, with throw boxing out the window, you're out there functioning every day. You're not living out the back
It just wasn't the way that he would have liked.
Yeah, okay.
But he gave it up. Listen, when he was dying and he had cancer and it was bad. He was struggling and it was hard. And I remember I went to the hospital. It was during COVID where we can only go one at a time. And I got to spend a good amount of time with him. And we talked and he kept telling me how proud he is of me, how much he loves me. Things he never really told me growing up because he just wasn't able and he wasn't that guy.
Well, you know what? I come out of that generation.
Yeah.
And look, with my daughters, it's hard sometimes too because, look, we want them to be independent like your dad. And you know what? That affection that is out there today was not out there back in the day a lot.
Well,
it was there inside. It may have not been shown like today.
And he's an old Irish Catholic Marine, NYPD detective. Like he had moments, but those last moments that I had with him, and he was able to express everything. And I believed him. I didn't need to hear it all those times. I mean, it would have been nice, but you know what? I knew it. I knew it in other ways. I understood him.
But do you think without a little bit of that tough love, you would have continued?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a question. I don't know. So I think, listen, I am who I am. I'm the woman I am today because of the way my mother and father raised me. Yeah. And there's no question.
Boxing and no boxing.
No boxing, no boxing.
That's what I mean. You're out there right now. So besides boxing, obviously you'll make your announcement in June. What else can we look forward to seeing you do in the future?
Well, I mean, commentating's coming up, podcasting may be coming up. I've got a YouTube channel. It's Shea Boxing is the name of my YouTube channel. So you guys can check it out and follow me through my camps. I just went through, I did an 8-week out, a 5-week out, a 2-week out, and then the fight got canceled. So people got to see some behind the scenes.
So you're going to be doing stuff for this fight behind the scenes that you're going to be
I got this whole trip.
Be putting stuff out there for
and
people
then we'll be
to
doing
see.
my training will be part of it, but I have this whole trip going on, and then I've got my training when I get back into the camp that'll be there, so just bringing people into my life because that's the thing now, right? YouTube and Instagram, and I wish I could do it more, but I'm like, it's hard sometimes because I'm in the moment and I'm present, so I'm not thinking like
is it because we really didn't come out of that generation?
Yes, I believe that's a big part of it.
And is it the way possibly that we were raised, that humbleness, that, not...
Oh, it's going.
This is going. There you go, Frank. Go ahead. Thank you.
Just trying to take you out.
Yes.
I think it's...
If you were to start your career today with the social media, would it have been more beneficial, you think?
Well, I mean,
would it have changed anything?
Yeah,
in the
maybe.
way?
Well, yeah. But like, we can all say woulda, shoulda, coulda. Listen, what I got for what I did during the time that I did it with $1 Million Baby and with all the things I did. I mean, I sparred with Joan Rivers for God's sakes. Who gets to do that?
Oh, I know.
You know what I mean?
You did it the hard way too. I mean, it was like
I was in People Magazine, In Touch Magazine, and all these.
How did the movie come about?
So it was based.
I never asked you.
So it was based on this is what happened. It was based on short stories, and it was called Rope Burns, and it was a short story. And $1 Million Baby was in the book, and so Clint Eastwood decided to make a movie out of it. Hillary was brought to Hector and Gleason's.
I remember that.
And then I remember the day that I was in Bruce's office, and Hillary was there, and we knew her from like 90210 and Karate Kid, but she wasn't like this like this big name. But either way, in Gleason's, we had 50 Cent come in. We had people come in, and it was like,
all different people.
Everybody, so it was just like, okay. But because everybody there's got, they're there for their job, whatever. So she was there. I met her, and Bruce had said, oh, you probably will be working with each other. And, and Hillary didn't just work with me. I was her primary sparring partner and spent a lot of time with her. But she worked with other females, and she worked with some guys with Hector. But, I spent the most time with her, and I really gave her my life story. Like, I just talked to her. So, when I say, she studied me for the character, I think that she really got to understand women's boxing and a little bit through my struggle and through the way that I am, myself and other females. But I think it was just in a compilation of all of us. But it was when the media came to me, and I didn't ask for it. I didn't audition for this. They asked me how I got into boxing. And then I told what I told you. I just told the truth.
Told the story.
And then all of a sudden it was like, whoop. And I just started getting all this attention. And I remember when I fought in the quarterfinals of the Golden Gloves that year, it was at the Copacabana. And I fought Sofia Gegovic, and I probably just butchered her last name, but we went to high school together. But I got kicked out. She graduated from Preston, and I got kicked out. So I remember seeing her at the weigh-in. I'm like, what weight? Well, she was with Tiger Schulman. And I was like, what weight are you fighting at? She's like, 125. I was like, me too. And sure enough, we got matched. So two Catholic schoolgirls fight each other. Anyway, long story short, I won the fight. But then after the fight was over, when they raised my hand, I saw the stage and all these cameras were there. And I was just like, I just thought they were there for the Golden Gloves. Well, when I left the ring and I went to the back, all those cameras followed me. And I remember they were all standing there like with microphones. And I'm looking for my water. I was grabbing the microphone thinking it was water. I had Sports Illustrated was there to talk to me. And I was just like, what is happening? But it was a different time.
Right.
If that was like what social media is today, yeah, But it's like, listen, my story is going to be told. My light's going to shine no matter what. You know what I mean? So I'm happy doing it, even if I just do this with you.
Listen,
and this is it.
You put it in the spot of hard work. Cream rises to the top. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like all those years doing it, you weren't doing it for notoriety. You weren't doing it for anything else. You were doing it for you. Mm-hmm. And that's what people forget about fighters. We all start there. We're doing it for us. Trainers, fighters all start out at the same place.
That's right.
This sport is a bad boyfriend and a bad girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah.
We're breaking up one day and we're back together the next day. You know what I mean?
But I got to tell you that when I took the time away from the boxing, I started coming back when I had with COVID and my dad and stuff. I started realizing it was the business that was making me mad at the boxing. And I said, I love boxing. I don't like the business. Yeah. Don't let the business take away your love for the sport. I'm always going to box, whether I fight or not.
But
I love the act of boxing.
You do. And most people start out like that. Most fighters are all starting, and coaches, we all. As a coach, the purity of the sport is the love of boxing. Mm-hmm. The business is terrible.
But
we
have
to deal with it, but it's not something we like because.
But then look, I have interactions with you. You know what I'm saying? Like I get to meet you how many years ago that we followed each other. And then I get to come in and the people that I've met through boxing, Frankie, you know what I mean? Like Frankie was doing photography when I was running Global. And then, him and I we just maintained our friendship. We were talking about it. I was like, God, we met in 2010 or 11.
It's small.
And now he's here helping me with my video. Like, it's just like, but everybody, but he knows my story. You know what I'm saying? Like those that don't know, and it's like, and they're helping me share it and tell it. You know what I mean? And I'm grateful. And you're helping me share it and tell it.
But, like you, as for myself as a trainer, I was given opportunities by a lot of different people. Mm-hmm. I was put in a lot of different places around a lot of different people in camps with trainers where, I was in camp with Manny Stewart once and not saying a word. And this is before phones and everything else. And I would go back and I'd write everything down in a notebook, which I still have.
But that's your work ethic.
And then one day he said something in camp, and I turned like this. I said, who are you talking? He goes, no, I'm talking to you, Coach. Oh. And I'm like, oh, well, it's not my place to say anything. You're running camp.
But it's your humility.
We talked afterwards, and it's like you said, it's brought me to places I never thought I would be and around people. And, 90% of the people are good people. And look, I've always been a fan of yours, watching you from the beginning in the gym on Neppahan Avenue, and I know that
I have pictures of that when I was
that
like
was a great gym, though. If you really think about it,
it was
in that warehouse. It was
with the Pascal Rouse.
Pascal Rouse. We still see him around.
What was the guy? Oh my God, there was a guy that was at my fight, and I Patrick. Do you remember Patrick? He was a big black guy. Rode a motorcycle. I forgot his last name. He would come in sometimes, but I remember him at New York Boxing. Do you know that when I was fighting at the Carneseca Arena when I fought for Joe in 2022, that I heard his voice and I knew while I was fighting, I was like, that's Patrick. Do you know after the fight, I was like, I knew it was you. Yeah. I hadn't heard his voice in, 20 years, 15 years. That's crazy.
But you remember it from that gym.
Is that not insane? It's like I knew that voice and everything he was saying. I mean, I knew what I was doing, but he was like, I was like, he knew my style.
You were the only woman over there. I think they had Leona Brown in there once in
Oh
a
my
while.
gosh. So Leona was there, but then Amory Sacarato came, and then Angel Bovee came, and then we had Kathy. Kathy was she was a bigger girl. She fought in the Golden Gloves. I don't know if she turned pro. I don't think she turned pro. No, she didn't. But she was military. You know, so we had some girls. We had a group there. Yeah, we had fun. It was different. You know, then I went to Gleason's, and Alicia was there. Was my sparring partner, and then Ruth Sullivan. You know,
different place out there. And so a couple of things here. Now, I kind of end with a couple of ways.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions, bullets right here.
Oh yeah, and I gotta answer them one word answers.
Nah, you don't
because
have
I'm
to
so
answer,
good at
you
that.
You don't have to answer one word.
Okay.
All right, pre-standard. If you were in a foxhole, who do you pick to be with you?
My father. My father.
Okay, so that's pretty quick.
My father.
I don't get quick answers.
I'm gonna start crying. My dad. My dad's like my hero. Like my mom too, but my dad for sure.
Right,
he's a little stronger than me.
All right, 3 dinner guests, dead or alive.
Okay.
Pick them. It doesn't matter who they are. You want to have dinner with 3 people. Who are they?
So it would definitely be Jesus for sure. Muhammad Ali. My grandfather. I never met my grandfather. On my Mexican side, I would want to have dinner with my grandfather.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, listen, it's been really great having you and catching up with you. And why don't you tell everybody where we can find you on social media?
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
You know, so we can keep a lookout for you, and we'll be looking for your next date on.
It'll be announced on my Instagram. So
Okay.
it's Maureen _Shea on Instagram, Maureen Shea on Twitter, Facebook Maureen Shea. My YouTube is Shea Boxing. So I guess you can look up at Shea Boxing. No more websites, you know. But feel free to DM me or message me if you have any questions about what I've been through, what I shared here today. I'm always happy to answer. And thank you for your support. And thank you, Dave. So good to see you.
Always. I want to shout out one of our sponsors real quick. Alicia Renee at drinktoshrink.com. Detox drink, all natural, caffeine free, help you take some pounds out and clean you out a little bit. See you again on Coach's Corner. Thank you.
Thank you.